They say addiction is a disease, but the real disease is the system that breeds it. Addiction is the inevitable result of a capitalistic society that claims democracy, a machine that runs on pain, loneliness, and broken homes. And who bleeds first? The moms. We got moms in the West burying their sons before they're 30, and sons burying their moms because she overdosed on the pills that she once hid from him. Single moms left alone to raise boys into men while their dads chose a bottle, a pill, a hit, or a woman that fed his ego more than his family's stomach. You see, a man without a mission becomes a slave to his impulses. He forgets his purpose and he starts to worship his pain. And pain's a cruel god. It takes your paycheck, your peace, and your prayer. Before long, the bottle becomes your Qibla. Your regrets become your religion. He ends up in prison or 6 feet under, and somehow, he's still calling home, asking the woman he abandoned to send money for his next fix. He mastered guilt trips and fake promises. I'm getting out soon, he says. I'm going to make it right. But she knows that phone call ain't about redemption. It's about survival. And she foots the bill anyway because she's still got the heart of a mother, even if the man she loved lost his soul. You see, this is the fruit of a generation of men raised by women. Not because women wanted it that way, but because men walked off the job. They were supposed to build homes. They built habits instead. They were supposed to protect families, and they protected their pride. Now we got boys in men's bodies, emotional, reactive, loud, and violent, because nobody taught them how to think. They learned to scream instead of reason, to throw fists instead of prayers, to demand respect instead of earning it. And the single moms who try to raise their sons alone, may Allah reward them. They're fighting battles on 3 fronts: the bills, the streets, and the boy who's slowly becoming a man that she can't control. Her body's aging, her patience is thinning, and her boy, he's growing into everything that his daddy ran away from. The system smiles at that because every broken home is another dollar earned. Every absent father is another dependent mother. They don't fix families, they fund dysfunction. They don't teach discipline, they distribute pills. Because a stable household don't make them money, but a shattered one keeps the machine alive. This is the system they sold you. They said, get divorced, girl, find yourself. You don't need no man, girl. They said you're independent and you can do it all. What they didn't tell you was that your sons would be the ones who never recover. That they'd grow up in a house full of love, but missing the leadership that teaches a man what love costs. And now the world calls those boys toxic masculinity. Let me tell you, that ain't masculinity. That's feminized pain masquerading as manhood. It's chaos wearing the mask of confidence. It's the product of a society that rewards rebellion and mocks responsibility. And then you got the clowns. Men in designer jeans so tight they cut off circulation. Fresh fades, 5 o'clock shadows pretending to be beards. Standing in front of cameras, cussing, shouting, flipping off the world, and calling that prophetic masculinity. They say they're leaders of men, but the Prophet ﷺ didn't lead like that. He didn't have to scream to be obeyed, and he didn't have to hit nobody to be respected. He didn't have to prove his power because his character was power itself. The Prophet ﷺ said, the strong man is not the one who can overpower others in wrestling. It's the one who controls himself when he's angry. That's Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. That's real masculinity, control, dignity, leadership through mercy, not manipulation. Today's man would rather look masculine than be masculine. They go into debt for $40,000 trucks lifted on 40s. They spend their whole paycheck on rims and lights, but they can't afford to live on their own. They can't afford to marry, and they can't afford to grow up. And that's the lucky ones. The rest are being raised by systems, public schools that teach them to question everything except their own laziness. Our granddaddies built barns with bare hands. They prayed before sunrise and buried their pride in the dirt they plowed. Today's youth break a sweat scrolling TikTok. They call endurance toxic. They think masculinity is the enemy because they've never seen it practiced with mercy. They're told to be unique. So they dye their hair purple, they pierce their noses, and they think rebellion is identity. They crumble over paper cuts. They panic when the Wi-Fi is out, and they need safe spaces from words. A generation of hollow hearts and hollow minds produced by an assembly line of moral confusion. And the saddest part is the real men, the ones with faith, loyalty, and strength, they're few and far between. It's a shame. Muslim sisters are out here ready for righteous husbands, but the pool of men is so polluted with boys who never become leaders. And the West has brainwashed many of our sisters into thinking that polygyny ain't for them. while other women suffer in silence, waiting for a man who'll never show because he never learned how to be a man. But Islam is the ancient medicine for this modern disease. When the world lost its compass, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent men who knew how to lead, men who prayed at night and fought by day, men who feared Allah more than they feared the enemy. Look at Ali ibn Abi Talib. May Allah be pleased with him. He could destroy a man on the battlefield and still weep in the masjid like a child before his Lord. That's balance. That's masculinity. Look at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mended his own clothes. He milked his own goat. He served his family. Yet whenever the trumpet of war blew, he stood in the front line and never behind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that men are the protectors and maintainers of women. This is a fact, the words of Allah. And that means when she's tired, you carry the load. When she's afraid, you stand in front of her. When she sins, you guide, not gloat. Leadership in Islam ain't about privilege, it's about responsibility. That weight on your neck on the day of judgment. Not their owners, not their oppressors, their protectors, their anchors. And the protectors don't abandon ship when the storm hits. Real masculinity ain't in your voice volume, it's in your patience. It ain't in your paycheck, it's in your principles. It ain't how many women you chase, it's how many souls you lead to Allah. Brothers, if you're still breathing, you still got time to rewrite your story. Put the bottle down. Turn off the game. Pick up the Quran. Start with your prayer. Start with your words. Start with your responsibilities. Because every boy can talk tough, but only a man can take accountability. Our ummah is starving for leaders, and Allah is watching to see who's going to stand up. So stand up. Be that man your sons can look up to. Be the man your daughters can feel safe around. Be the man who reminds the world that masculinity and mercy were never enemies. They were always brothers. It's a fact. And if you want to see the ummah rise again, start by rising yourself. Because Islam don't just need men, it needs mu'mineen, men of Iman, men who bow to none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brother, it's time. The world's been raising boys for too long. Let's raise men again. Let's raise Muslims again. Rise up, brother. Wipe the dust off your prayer mat and the excuses off your tongue. Let your calloused hands tell the stories your mouth never needs to. Because this world's already seen what happens when men fall asleep. Now it's time they see what happens when Muslims wake up. Because Islam is still the ancient medicine for the modern disease. And that's all I've got to say about it.